What is up, everybody? In today's insane video, I'm gonna be talking about something a bit different, but kind of the same. The reason it's a bit different is because this video is an actual video, which is different because if you haven't noticed recently, I haven't been posting for months. The reason is I ran out of video ideas. Then I had one or two big projects I was planning. Then those big YouTube related projects totally failed. And I gave up on those. Then I had some of my own projects that were not YouTube related. Then I kind of forgot YouTube existed. So now I'm back. Or at least back for now. I know I'm going to make this video, and 99% chance I'm going to make another video relatively soon after this video comes out. Not exactly sure how long it will be after those two videos, how long it will be for any more content to come out. I might come out with something in a few weeks, or it might be a few more months. I don't know. We'll see how things go. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into what this video is about. This video is going to be about Polaroid. Now, you probably know what this is. It's in TV shows, movies, it's all over the place in real life. It's everywhere. You know what this is. It's basically like an instant film format that, comes out of a camera and is instantly developed. I mean, it's not instant. It takes like 5 to 30 minutes for it to fully develop, but you get an image. Now, you might notice this is not an image, and I'll get into why that happened. That's one of the reasons I'm making this video. The other reason is this camera. This camera looks like a normal Instax Mini Fujifilm camera. Now, if you don't know, Instax Mini is like the larger Polaroid standard, except it's half-ish the width. I mean, it ain't exactly half the width, but it's like half the width of a regular Polaroid. I just had one as an example, like literally 5 minutes ago, but I laid it down somewhere and it got caught in the seat cushions or something. I don't know where it is, so I don't have that as a visual reference, but the thing it makes is like that wide. It's like half the size of the normal Polaroids. Now this is the size of Polaroid for the XS70 and 600 Polaroid film, which is the most common one for the older cameras. There's also some other weird Polaroid instant film formats that I do not have time to get into. And then you have the Instax Mini Fujifilm, which is like half the width and like this. However, this Instax Mini stuff is also known as Polaroid 300 film. Except it kind of isn't. Because this camera really shouldn't exist. This camera is branded Polaroid. Now, a lot of you might not see the issue with this, but I do. When I got this camera back in 2013-ish, Polaroid didn't exist as a company anymore. It folded in 2008. Now today, these days, there is a company that goes by a similar name called Polaroid Originals. And that's what the Impossible Project, the people who started making the larger film for the older, larger cameras, called themselves. Because everybody said doing this again was impossible. And not gonna lie, it kind of was. Instant film is like really hard, especially considering this is reversal film, which is even more complicated, and it's all in one layer. It ain't the peel. Basically, this is way harder to pull off than you think it is. Like, I know how film development works, and I'm even doing it myself sometimes, and the fact that this is even possible at all is insane. So I totally get why everyone said that bringing the Polaroid film back to life was impossible. But those Impossible Project people now call themselves Polaroid Originals. Keyword is that they put the originals next to their name all the time. They're called Polaroid Originals, not Polaroid. They have a slightly different logo than the original Polaroid. And that wasn't even the name of that company when this came out. But this camera is branded Polaroid, which doesn't make any sense, because this size and format was made by Fujifilm under the name Instax Mini, and Polaroid stopped existing at a company by then. Now, there's probably a logical explanation, like maybe the Polaroid company folded and then Fujifilm bought the rights to use their name for a few years and then went back to calling it Instax Mini, or I don't know what happened. But basically, this camera is probably pretty rare considering the fact this shouldn't even exist. Now, this camera is really interesting because I even have the bag for it. This is the original bag from like 10 years ago that went with this camera. And it has the old Polaroid logo, even though Polaroid didn't exist as a company at that time. Now, again, there's probably a logical explanation. Maybe like the Instax Mini people, like, license out the Polaroid name after they folded for a few years before going back to using the Instax name. I don't know what happened. But basically, I thought I would make a video about that, because that means this is probably quite rare. Now, this camera doesn't actually work anymore. This knob that controls the light sensitivity, completely broken. The electronics, broken. The battery compartment is broken. The viewfinder is actually still somehow working, and yeah, it doesn't really work much anymore, because I use this a lot. I use this somewhat regularly for like 3-4-ish years. I used this for a long time, and that's why it got destroyed. I used this up until a few years ago. The reason it's gotten so wrecked is because we used to travel a lot, and the thing is, this camera is not poorly built, but it's also not amazingly built. It's not cheap garbage, but it's also not the Taj Mahal. So this camera is just a basic plasticky point and shoot. So it's not like it was really designed to last 30 years. So yeah, that's this weird 300 camera that shouldn't exist. Now, let's move on to the next thing I want to talk about, and that's the Impossible Project film. As I said earlier, today they go under the name Polaroid Originals. They still make film like this, but I'm assuming their modern film is much better than what it was back in my day. Because back in my day, the Impossible Project film was terrible. Now, I'm not roasting Impossible Project. As I said earlier, reversal film, instant reversal film is really hard. So I don't really blame them for not really knowing what they were doing, especially considering that was a decade ago when they just started only 2 or 3 years ago. So I can't really blame them for that. But I will talk about a bunch of weird quirks, because I'm not sure if many people remember this. Basically, normal Polaroid film, like the film that would have originally gone in this camera, and the Instax Fujifilm, even to this day, has 10 photos. The old Impossible Project stuff only had 8. That might make sense. Maybe their thing might be thicker than what it originally was, so they had to put less film in the cartridge. because this is like a really thick cardstock with a lot of stuff inside of it. It's like a thick cardboard paper stuff. So I totally get why they might have had to only put 8 in there. They might have not could have fit in the whole 10. Also, the original Polaroid stuff, and even to this day, the Fujifilm Instax Polaroid 300 stuff, would, when you printed it out, the film would be white. It was a white color that protected the film from light while it was developing, and it would develop in a few minutes, I think it was like 5 minutes or something like that. It was quite fast, actually. You printed it out and only waited a bit before you started to see an image. By 5-10 minutes, the image was fully there, and you could see it. Impossible Project, however, took over 30 minutes to develop. Now, again, this might be different than it is now. Also, I remember something about having to put the film, immediately take it out of the camera and put it in your camera bag. Because apparently the film wasn't very good at blocking out the light, so you had to put it in a bag, otherwise something like this would happen. Second of all, weird thing I remember is when it printed out, it was blue. If you don't know, normal, even the Instax Fujifilm and the old Polaroid stock, or the old Polaroid film before the Impossible Project, all of that stuff printed out white and would take a few minutes to develop. Impossible Project film, the old stuff, I don't know what they're doing now, used to print out blue. The thing would be a bright blue before it finished developed. It was really weird. So yeah, that was some of the quirks about the old Impossible Project film. It was also just really rough and poorly made in general. Now again, I'm not blaming them for this, because they basically had to reinvent the entire instant film process. But, let's just say the results back then, back in my day, were a bit inconsistent. Now, I taped over all the faces in this image. One of them's me, but of a younger me. The other two are some random relatives, so I taped over all the faces to protect the innocent. But, I thought I would show you this as an example of what the old Polaroid film looked like. Or the old Instax Impossible Project film looked like. Yep, that's terrible. This is black and white, by the way, which you might have noticed, except for the fact it's more sepia tone than black and white, which might have been intentional, or might have been a technological limitation. I know, I've seen regular black and white. Normal black and white does not look like this. This is more of like a sepia tone. Now, throughout history, sepia tone black and white was a thing that occasionally showed up and was a thing that would be intentional. So I'm not sure if this was intentional or just them not being that good back then at making the instant film. I don't really know what happened. But yeah, that's what this stuff used to look like. So yeah, that's basically the end of today's video. So, if you like this video and want to subscribe, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. But if you don't feel like subscribing yet, please feel free to check out another one of my videos that our AI overlords say you will like. And with that out of the way, bye.